Hello everyone and welcome back to our virtual Mishnah Berurah share. We're holding Mishnah Berurah Chel Gimel, and Mirz Hashem today we will be learning Daf Lamed Vav Amud Beis. We are continuing to learn Hilchos Shabbos. We pick up today on Daf Lamed Vav Amud Beis in the middle of the top line of the Shulchan Aruch, Siman Reish Samach Gimel Sif Hey. We are continuing to learn the halachas of Hadlakas Neiros. Say that 10 times fast. Halachas, hadlaka, whatever. Our learning today should be a schus for Achenu Kabeis Yisrael Hanasuna Batzaru Bashivya Haimdim Bei Bayama Bein Bayabasha Hamakayim Yerachem Aleihem V'Yitzim Yitzar Lervacha Me'afela La'ira Mishiv L'Gula Hashta Bagalo V'Zman Kariv V'Neimar Amen. Says the Mechaber Sif Hey. Kishayadlik, when we go to light Neiros Shabbos, Kishayadlik, Yevarech, you make a berachah, Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech HaOlam Asher Kiddushanu b'mitzvaysav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbos. Echad ha'ish ve'echad ha'isha. Whether it's a man that's sliding or a woman that's sliding, even though we've said that noshim are muzharos yoser, that really this mitzvah is a mitzvah that's considered more in the domain of a woman than a man, but we've seen that both the man and the woman have a chiyuv of Neiros Shel Shabbos, so therefore whoever it is that's sliding will make the berachah v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbos. Says the Mishnah Berurah, this is the lengthiest Mishnah Berurah in today's shir. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Ois Katan Chaf Aleph, Kishayadlik, when you go to light. Yesh Oimrim. There are those that say, the Mishnah Berurah brings down over here an interesting Maharash b'shem Maharam. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Yesh Oimrim, there are those that say, Kishayesh chuppah be'erev Shabbos. There was a time when it was a very prevalent minig that they made a chasana on erev Shabbos. So, kishayesh chuppah be'erev Shabbos, if there's going to be a chuppah on erev Shabbos, so we know that a chuppah, a chasana, you get all involved, it can take a lot of time. Uma'acharin ba ad achar shkias hachama, and the people know that they're going to be preoccupied with the chuppah, the chuppah, the aftermath of the chuppah, until after shkia. So, at least according to the Gra, now you're already going into ben hashmashas after shkia. Now, a woman is faced with the following dilemma. She doesn't want to go ahead and sind licht before the chuppah and be makabel Shabbos before the chuppah. Why? Says the Mishnah Berurah. She's not ready to be makabel Shabbos and aser herself on all malacha before the chuppah. We're assuming that the chuppah is taking place after Plag HaMincha, so theoretically she could light Neiros and she could be Makabel Shabbos. But she doesn't want to because she thinks there might still be things that she's going to have to do yet before Shabbos that are going to entail Meleches Isser. So she doesn't feel it's an eitzah for her to light and be Makabel Shabbos before the chuppah. To wait until after the chuppah, she's afraid that she's going to become preoccupied. She's going to wake up, it's after Shkia, she's not going to be able to light. So there are those that say, says the Chavetz Chaim, Alkein, therefore, Tadlik Haner Beloy Bracha, she should sind licht without a bracha, Koydem HaChuppah, before the chuppah, and not be B'Kabel Shabbos, I guess, V'achakach B'chashecha, and then later on, after Shkia, what should she do? Tifrais yadeha al haneros utavarich. So she's gonna light before the chuppah. So it's after Plag, maybe. So it's already a time that she could theoretically light. She's gonna light, albeit without a bracha and without Kabbalah Shabbos, before the chuppah. Then after Shkia, she's gonna go over to the Neiros and she's gonna cover up her eyes, and then she's gonna make a bracha and uncover her eyes. That's one eitzah that some people came up with. Another eitzah that they had was, Kishu adayin ben hashmashas, if after the chuppah it's still ben hashmashas, so it's after shkia but it's before tzeis, so kishu adayin ben hashmashas achar chuppah, toimar le'ena Yehudi, so the woman, instead of lighting before the chuppah, she didn't light before the chuppah, she had the chuppah, now it's already after shkia, it's ben hashmashas. Now she'll go over to an Eina Yehudi. Achar HaChuppah Tarmin LaEina Yehudi Lahadlik. She'll go instruct an Eina Yehudi to light for her. And that would be mutter, as far as the Amir La'akum is concerned, it would be mutter, to loy gazer al shvus ben hashmashos l'tzarech mitzvah v'chanal b'simin reish sabak aleph. Because let's remember, we learned that during the ben hashmashos period, Amir La'akum for sure, even if you are Makabel Shabbos already with a tzibur, but during ben hashmashos, Amir La'akum l'tzarech mitzvah would be mutter. Okay, v'hi tavarich. And then she'll make a bracha. So before we go weiter in the Mishnah Berurah, let's just make sure we lock down and understand what the Mishnah Berurah just said. We have a woman who's faced with a dilemma. There's going to be a chuppah on Erev Shabbos. She's going to be very preoccupied with the chuppah, and she's afraid that the chuppah and the tzarchei chuppah are going to stretch out until past Shkia. Past Shkia, she can no longer light. So she doesn't have an eitzah to wait until after the chuppah is finished and light after the chuppah, because that's going to be after Shkia. Okay, so you say let her light before the chuppah. But she doesn't feel that she has an eitzah to light before the chuppah, because before the chuppah, even if it's after plag, and theoretically she could light, but if she's going to light, she's going to be Makabel Shabbos. She doesn't want to light and be Makabel Shabbos before the chuppah, because then she becomes Aser in Malacha. She's not ready yet to become Aser in Malacha. So there are those that give two different eitzahs for how to kriach out of this problem. One eitzah that they gave was light before the chuppah without a bracha and without Kabbalah Shabbos. So just light the Neiros before the chuppah without a bracha, without Kabbalah Shabbos. All right. Now what are you going to do? When are you going to make the bracha? All right. After the chuppah, which is after Shkia, she'll go over to the Neiros. She'll cover her eyes, so now she can't see the Neiros. And then she'll uncover her eyes, and she'll make a bracha. That was eitzah number one. Now, the Mishnah Berurah is going to say that this eitzah is no eitzah. But that was eitzah number one that the Chavetz Chaim brings down. Eitzah number two that the Chavetz Chaim brings down was that the woman would not light before the chuppah. No, she wouldn't light before the chuppah. As a matter of fact, she wasn't going to light before Shkia at all. What is she going to do? After Shkia, during the Ben Hashmashos period, she's going to go over to an Eina Yehudi. She's going to instruct an Eina Yehudi, do me a favor, light those two Neiros for me. And then she's going to go ahead and she's going to make the bracha on the Neiros that the Eina Yehudi lit. Now, the Amir La'akum is mutter because it's Amir La'akum l'tzarech mitzvah during Ben Hashmashos, which we paskin as mutter. So these are the two eitzahs that are brought down. Says the Chavetz Chaim. V'tamu ha'achroinim al zeh. The achroinim already are masmiya. They react in wonderment to both of these two eitzahs. First of all, they say, "D'lo shaykh bracha b'deluka v'aimedes." You can't make a bracha on Neiros that are already lit. You can't go over to Neiros that you lit an hour ago and now go ahead and make a bracha on them. You have to make the bracha when you're lighting. You can't make the bracha an hour later. So this first eitzah that she's going to go light before the chuppah and then go ahead and cover her eyes and uncover them and make a bracha after the chuppah, after Shkia, that, he says right away, you can't do that. D'lo shaykh bracha b'dluka v'aimedes. Ubifrat, and certainly, da'atu zman iser lahadlik. Certainly, in the case that we're outlining over here, when does she want to make the bracha? She wants to make the bracha during Ben Hashmashos. She wants to light before the chuppah, then come back after Shkia and make a bracha. You're going to make a bracha, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvaysav, v'tzivanu, who sanctified us with his mitzvahs, v'tzivanu, and commanded us, lahadlik Neiros Shabbos, to light Shabbos licht. You're making that bracha at a time that it's usher for you to light. During Ben Hashmashos, you're not allowed to do a malacha daraisa of havara, of lighting a candle on Shabbos. So how could you make a bracha lahadlik Neiros Shabbos at a time that you're not allowed to make, that you're not allowed to light? So forget it. The Mishnah Berurah says this first eitzah of lighting before the chuppah and making the bracha during Ben Hashmashos, it's dead in the water. He says you can't do this. Okay, that's the first eitzah. Val iduch takana, and on the second eitzah that we had, to toimer le'eina Yehudi lahadlik, that you should instruct an eina Yehudi to light the candles during Ben Hashmashos and make a bracha on the candles that the eina Yehudi lit. Gam came gotcha. That's also shver. Ha'in shlichus le'eina Yehudi. There's no din of shlichus. You cannot appoint an eina Yehudi to be your shliach. Shlichus is a chiddush. The idea of shlichus, the idea that you could appoint somebody a shliach and shluchei shaladam kamaisai, you could appoint the shliach, and the shliach could do something in your stead. That's a chiddush that we learn out. It doesn't apply to an Ein Yehudi. You cannot make an Ein Yehudi a shliach. V'im kain he ein madlekes. So then, by instructing an Ein Yehudi to be madlik, you're not being madlik. So how can you make a bracha? You're making a bracha shekidushanim b'seisiv sivan lahadik Neiros Shabbos on Neiros that an Ein Yehudi lit. You can't do that. You can't make such a bracha. Va'afilu Yisrael hamitzav l'chaver lahadlik gam kein das haderech hakayim to hamitzav l'yavarach rak hamadlik. When it comes to adlakas Neiros Shabbos, we're going to see that the derech hakayim holds that even if you appoint another Yisrael to light the Neiros, the one who lights makes the bracha, not the one who commanded him to light. Koshkein bazed or yishaloi tavarech. So the Chavetz Chaim brought down the issue. He brought down two eitzes that are brought down, and he knocks them both out. Not in his own. He brings down from the Achronim. The Achronim reacted wonderment to both of these eitzes, and the Chavetz Chaim is saying that these eitzes don't work. Therefore, says the Mishnah Berurah, Umaski ha'achronim, and he brings this down from Rabbi Kiva Eiger. Umaski ha'achronim eitza acheres lozeh. The Achronim come up with another eitzah, which is very pertinent to us. There are a lot of times that this comes up. These shilas come up halacha l'maisa. Umaski ha'achronim eitza acheres lozeh. The Achronim conclude that they have another eitzah for such a situation. Dahainu, lefi ma dekayim alon lekamon. What we're going to learn, Mir Hashem Bez Hashem Yisparach, I think in the next year, we're going to learn in Sif Yud, the Yechayla levarech ulahasnois, that a woman could make a bracha and she could do adlakas neiros al tanai. She could light the neiros with a tanai that she's not being Makabel Shabbos yet, even though the default position is that when a woman goes ahead and sins Shabbos licht, she's Makabel Shabbos. But a woman could make a tanai and go against the default. She could say, I'm making the bracha, I'm lighting the Shabbos licht, but that does not constitute Kabbalah Shabbos. I'm not being Makabel Shabbos yet. So, lefi ma'adekayim lo lekamon di yechayla levarich o lahasnois al kol panim b'letzorich. At least in a case where there's a tzarech to do so, she'eina Makabel Shabbos b'hadlaka, and her tanai is that she's not being Makabel Shabbos with the hadlaka. Hachinami b'inyonenu. So too in this case, in this issue that we have brought up, the case of the chuppah on Erev Shabbos, heavy l'tzarech. There's a tzarech over here. The reason the woman has a tzarech is she knows she's going to be tied up with the chuppah. She's going to be afraid by the end of the chuppah it's going to be after shkia. She's not going to be able to tzid licht. So she has a tzarech to light earlier. So therefore, v'tadlik u'tevarech koydem shayleches l'chuppah. So then she could go ahead and she could light before the chuppah, v'tasna, and she should make a tanai that she's not being Makabel Shabbos yet. I'm lighting before the chuppah, but I'm not being Makabel Shabbos, so now I could still do malacha, and I'm going to be Makabel Shabbos a little bit before Shabbos. I'm going to be Makayim Toisefer Shabbos. I'm going to be Moisef Michael ala Kodesh, but I'm not being Makabel Shabbos with this making of the bracha and sending licht. V'hu adin nami be'isha shachal leil tfilasa be'erev Shabbos. Says the Mishnah Berurah that a time when this was negeya was by a woman who had to go to the mikveh Friday night. Says the Mishnah Berurah, what should she do? Tadlik, she should light, u'sevarich, and make a bracha, koydem halichas alabeis hatfila, before she goes to the mikveh, v'tasnen, she should make a tanai, she'ena mekabel Shabbos ad achar rechitza v'chafifa, but she's not being mekabel Shabbos until after she makes hachonos. Now this particular case in halacha is generally not too negaya to us, because the truth is that nowadays if a woman has to go to the mikveh Friday night, what we tell her to do is she should make chafifa, she should make all of her hachanos right before Shabbos. Once she finishes making her hachanos, she no longer has a problem with Isser Malacha on Shabbos. The Isser Malacha that's negaya, when you talk about a woman going to the mikveh Friday night, are all tied up in the hachanos, the chafifa, the combing of the hair, the wringing out of the hair, that's where you start to have shilas of Isser Malacha. It's all tied up in the chafifa. So what we say is make the chafifa right before Shabbos. After chafifa, go ahead, tzend licht with a bracha, with Kabbalah Shabbos, and then go to the mikveh afterwards, so you don't have a problem. But where this does become negeya is what do you do if a woman lives in an area where she has to drive? to the mikveh. So if she lives in an area where she has to drive to the mikveh, then she does come up against this issue. Forget about the issa berachah of chafifa. She has the problem of driving. So in that case, we would say, taka, tzin licht al tanai, with a bracha, light with a bracha, but with a tanai, that you're not being makabel Shabbos until you get to the mikveh. When you get to the mikveh, then you'll be makabel Shabbos. But the chafifa issue is generally not an issue. Okay. The nusach of the bracha, said the mechaber, is asher kiddushanu b'mitzvaysav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner Shabbos. Now, if you notice, it says lahadlik ner. Ner is in the singular. That's one ner. Sometimes, just about always, a woman lights more than one ner. The standard minig is 2 neros for zachar and shamar. Then we have what I think probably most women are noyig nowadays to light for each family member, etc., etc. Says the Mishnah Berurah, lahadlik ner, va'afilu kishamadlik kama neros, even a woman who's lighting many neros, toiv yoiser sheyomar ner, she should still use the singular of ner, ki ikar achiv hu ner echad, because like we've seen, the ikar chiv of Neiros Shabbos is 1 ner. Which I guess more properly I should say, the ikar chiv of ner Shabbos is 1 single ner. Now, therefore, it's more appropriate to make the bracha of a ner, because that's the tzivui. We're saying, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvaysav v'tzivanu. You are not commanded to light multiple ners. You are commanded to light 1 ner. So the bracha is, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvaysav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner Shabbos. Okay, now we go to the next halacha here in Sifhei. Says the mechaber. 3rd line down, right by the Ois Katan Chav Gimel, from the Mishnah Berurah, says the mechaber. Gam b'Yom Tov tzarich levarech lahadlik ner shel Yom Tov. The same way there's a chiyuv of hadlakas neros shel Shabbos, there's also a chiyuv to be madlik ner l'chvoid Yom Tov. Also, shalom bayis, etc., etc., oinig, simcha. So on Yom Tov also there's a chiyuv of ner Yom Tov. So therefore on Yom Tov you also make a bracha lahadlik ner shel Yom Tov. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Ois Katan Chav Gimel. Gam b'Yom Tov. Now this is a Mishnah Berurah that's going to take a lot of people by surprise, but we'll talk about it. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Gam b'Yom Tov. Ve'in tzarich levarech zman al hadlaka. A woman goes to tzindlicht on Yom Tov. You don't have to make a Shehechayanu. Okay. Miu, however, b'makom shenagu, in a place where the minig is to taka make a Shehechayanu, ein limchais b'yadon. You shouldn't object to women who make a Shehechayanu when they tzindlicht on Yom Tov. Now, like I said, I think this Mishnah Berurah is going to take many, many people by surprise. The vast, vast majority, if not all, women, no, not all, because I know certain communities that taka don't, but the vast majority of women make a Shehechayanu when they tzindlicht on Yom Tov. And yet we have a Mishnah Berurah over here who says, Ein tzarich levarech zman al hadlaka. There's no need to make a Shehechayanu when you tzindlicht for Yom Tov. And if you take a look at the Shari Tzionus Katlam Gimel, he brings this down, Shari Tshuva, Ubechadusha Rabbi Kiva Ega B'Shem Sheilus Yavitz. This comes from a Sheilus Yavitz. That's where it comes from. It comes from a Tshuvas Yavitz that says not to make a Shehechayanu when you tzindlicht on Yom Tov. Now what's behind this? So the truth is that, like a lot of other things in Halacha, when you really get down to it and you really start to think into it, you scratch your head and you say, hey, wait a second, that kind of makes sense. Let's think about this for a minute. Why do you make a Shehechayanu on Yom Tov? Well, what's the Shehechayanu about? So the Shehechayanu on Yom Tov is you're thanking the Rabbeinu Shalom. We call it berachas hazman, right? It's a bracha that we make on zman, on a time. What we're doing is we're thanking the Rabbeinu Shalom for allowing us, for being mechaya us, for being mekayim us, and to bring us to this auspicious time. Right? We're now coming up to what everybody colloquially calls the Yom Tov season. We're coming up to Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot. So when it comes Rosh Hashanah, when it comes Yom Kippur, when it comes Sukkot, we thank the Rabbeinu Shalom for bringing us to this auspicious time. We're zoichet to see another Sukkot. We're zoichet to enjoy another Sukkot. We're zoichet to come to the Zman that we could fulfill the mitzvah of Daled Minim. So we make a Shehechayanu on Lulav and Esrig. We come to the time that we could be Mekayim the mitzvah of Sukkah. These are all auspicious times. So we thank the Rabbeinu Shalom. So the Shehechayanu is on the Yom Tov. Now, when do we make the Shehechayanu? So we paskin that even though really you're allowed to make a Shehechayanu b'shuk, You can make a Shehechayanu even when you're walking in the street, but we paskin that it's better to make the Shehechayanu al hakais. You make the Shehechayanu over a kais of yayin. When? By Kiddush. So we all make a Shehechayanu. We sit down to Kiddush, Yom Tov by night, and we make Kiddush, and part of Kiddush is we make a Shehechayanu. Now, that covers the woman also. The balabayis, the husband, the man of the home, is making Kiddush, he's making a Shehechayanu, everybody says Amen, so everybody is covered with that Shehechayanu. Not only is everybody covered by that Shehechayanu, but like I said, we paskin that it is preferable to make the berachah of Shehechayanu al hakais. So why is a woman going ahead and making her own Shehechayanu al haneros? Where does that come from? It doesn't seem to make sense. So that's why the Tshuvas Yavitz turns around and the Tshuvas Yavitz says, what is this Shehechayanu by Neiros? The Shehechayanu by Neiros doesn't seem to make sense. Not only that, there are some that want to suggest that there's even a little bit of a technical issue, potentially, with making the Shehechayanu on the Neiros. What's that? Well, if the woman makes a Shehechayanu on the Neiros, so then, by Yom Tov night, when she sits down by the Suda, and her husband makes a Shehechayanu ala kais by Kiddush, and she answers Amen to the Shehechayanu. Now, it's a Shehechayanu that she doesn't need, because she made her own Shehechayanu. Well, wouldn't that then constitute a hefsek between Kiddush and drinking the wine? L'chayra, if she says Amen to that unnecessary Shehechayanu, you might be tempted to say, now it's a hefsek, and now she can't drink the yayin. So there might even be like a halachic issue that you're creating by making the Shehechayanu ala neiros. So this is where the Mishnah Berurah is coming from when the Mishnah Berurah says over here, no, you don't have to make a Shehechayanu on the Neiros. Why don't you have to make a Shehechayanu on the Neiros? Because your husband is going to make a Shehechayanu by Kiddush, and you're going to say Amen, and you're going to be Yotze Shehechayanu then. So what are you making a Shehechayanu now? That's where the Mishnah Berurah is coming from. Now, having said that, if you take a look at the Aruch HaShulchan, it hasn't been, I don't think I've quoted the Aruch HaShulchan or read from the Aruch HaShulchan too many times yet in Hilchos Shabbos, but those who are long-term listeners to my shir know just how completely taken I am with the Aruch HaShulchan, and I often turn to the Aruch HaShulchan to clarify certain manners. The not chas v'chalila in any way to denigrate anybody in any way, to do so would be unspeakable. But I'm just pointing out a difference between the Chavetz Chaim and the Aruch HaShulchan, which in a way explains their difference in style. The Chavetz Chaim was not a Rav. The Chavetz Chaim was a Rosh Yeshiva. The Chavetz Chaim had a yeshiva in Radin, and he wrote a pirush on Shulchan Aruch Chaim. The Aruch HaShulchan was a practicing Rav. The Aruch HaShulchan was a practicing Rav, a Paisik, who was brought Shilas all the time as a Rav. And he had to paskin for the masses. He just was a very practical Rav. In style, the Mishnah Berurah is much more lumdish and technical. This shita, that shita, what's behind this shita, what's behind that shita. The Aruch HaShulchan is in a way more pragmatic and a little bit clearer. There's greater clarity in his style of writing. Okay, says the Aruch HaShulchan over here. The Aruch HaShulchan says, "V'noshim shalanu mevarchos gam shehechayanu be'esad lakas neiros b'Yom Tov." Our women make a shehechayanu when they send licht on Yom Tov. Ve'ein limchos b'yadan, and you should not object to them. Dal pi roiv be'erev Yom Tov matlikos le'es erev mamish. Because when it comes to Yom Tov, they light very light in the day. V'koi Shehechayanu al Yom Tov. So they're properly making a Shehechayanu on the Yom Tov. V'yesh mefakvikin bazeh. Says Aruch HaShulchan, there are those that take issue with this. Namely, the Tshuvas Yavitz that we just quoted. V'yesh mefakvikin bazeh. Says the Aruch HaShulchan, V'hanach lehem libnois Yisrael min hagon. Leave b'nois Yisrael alone with their minhagim. The minig is to make a Shehechayanu when they send licht on Yom Tov. Leave them alone. Let them make their Shehechayanu. That's what the Aruch HaShulchan says. Now, the truth is that Rav Moshe in the Igris, Rosh Zatzal in the Igris Moshe, he tackled this also, and he tackled this question of the Amen. This question that some people are bringing up, that maybe the Amen, if a woman makes the Shehechayanu ala neiros and then she answers Amen to the Shehechayanu in Kiddush, maybe that constitutes a hefsek between the berachah of Kiddush, the Hagafen, and then going ahead and drinking the wine. the Yeshiva Zatzal says it's a complete non-issue. First of all, one of the things that the Yeshiva Zatzal says, if that was an issue, then one of the things that the Yavit should have said right away is, no, a woman should not make a Shehechayanu when she tzins licht. Why? Because she's creating a problem like Kiddush. She's making a hefsek. And the Yavit doesn't say such a thing. So the Yeshiva Zatzal says right away, no, this is a non-issue. Then the Yeshiva Zatzal explains why it's a non-issue. And basically what the Yeshiva Zatzal says is, when you hear a bracha, you have a chiyuv to say amen. And as long as the mevarich, as long as the one who's making the bracha has a true and proper chiyuv to make that bracha, and therefore the bracha is not a hefsek for him, think about it for a second. The one who's making Kiddush, right, the way we paskin, the first bracha of Kiddush is Hagafen. Do we drink the wine? No. After we make Hagafen, we make Kiddush. Now we make the bracha of Kiddush. Is the bracha of Kiddush, does that constitute a hefsek between the Bari Pri Hagafen and the drinking of the wine? No, because it's a tzarich. It's a tzarich of Kiddush. Hagafen is part of Kiddush, and the bracha of Kiddush is part of Kiddush. So therefore it doesn't constitute a hefsek. Then you go ahead, let's say on Sukkot, and you make another bracha. Is the bracha of Leisha Basukah, does that constitute a hefsek between the Bari Pri Hagafen and the drinking of the wine? No, because you're mechuyev to make a Leisha Basukah, and we paskin that the bracha of Leisha Basukah should be made ala kois. So it's part and parcel of Kiddush. It's not a hefsek. Then you make the bracha of Shehechayanu. Is the bracha of Shehechayanu a hefsek between the Hagafen and the drinking of the wine? No, because it's part and parcel of Kiddush. You have a chiyuv to make the Shehechayanu, so it's not a hefsek. Says Rav Moshe, as long as the mevarech has the right to make the bracha, and it does not constitute, the bracha doesn't constitute a hefsek for the mevarech, then the amen to that bracha also does not constitute a hefsek, even if you personally don't need the bracha. And the Yeshiva Zatzal brings a very interesting raya to this. The Yeshiva Zatzal says, l'chayra, this shaila would be negeya all the time on Sukkot. Why would it be negeya on Sukkot? Because let's imagine the following scenario. Let's imagine a scenario where somebody is sitting in the sukkah, and he already made a leisha basukah. Somebody made a leisha basukah. He had cake, whatever it is, he made a leisha basukah. And he's sitting in the sukkah. Now it comes time for Kiddush. And now somebody comes in and he makes Kiddush, and this guy wants to be Yaitz, he's listening to Kiddush, whatever it is. Does he answer Amen to the Leishev? Yes, he answers Amen to the Leishev, even though he doesn't need the Leishev. He was already sitting in the sukkah, he never left the sukkah. So he doesn't need a Leishev basukah. So how does he answer Amen? Says Rav Moshe, you don't find anywhere that anybody says, you should know Halacha in Kiddush on Sukkot, if you don't need a Leishev basukah, then you shouldn't answer Amen to the Leisha Basukah of the one who's making Kiddush, because if you do, it constitutes a hefsek. Nobody says such a halacha. Elamai, that's the way it is. Since the mevarech is allowed to make the leishev, and for the mevarech it doesn't constitute a hefsek, then for the shemeya, the one who's listening, the amen also does not constitute a hefsek. Okay. So that was Mishnah Berurah, Eis Kat and Chav Gimel. Now we go to Mishnah Berurah, Eis Kat and Chav Dalet. We said that on Yom Tov you also make a bracha, and the nusach of the bracha then is Neiros Shel Yom Tov, lahadlik Neiros Shel Yom Tov. Says the Mishnah Berurah, v'imchal Yom Tov b'Shabbos, if Yom Tov falls out on Shabbos, then when you tzid licht, Omer Shel Shabbos v'Shel Yom Tov, you said lahadlik Ner Shel Shabbos v'Shel Yom Tov. Okay, now we have to go further in the Shulchan Aruch. Says the Mechaber 3 lines down near the end of the line. Uv'yom Kippurim b'loy Shabbos. When you have Yom Kippur, and Yom Kippur is not on Shabbos. This year it happens to be Yom Kippur falls out on Shabbos. But if you have Yom Kippur that's not on Shabbos, yesh mi she'omer shaloi yevarech. There is a shita, it's brought down in the berachah, says from Tosfos, and the Torah brings it down in the name of a yesh oimrim. There is a shita that says that if Yom Kippur is on a weekday, you don't make a bracha when you tzin licht on Yom Kippur. V'ayin likaman simin taf reish yud. Says the Mishnah Berurah Kat Chafei. Vayla kamon sibit tafresh yud, de mevi shama mechaber das apoisik hamatzrich levarich. In Siman Tafresh Yud, in Hilchos Yom Kippurim, over there the Mechaber brings down the Psak Halacha that you do make a bracha on Adlakas Neiros on Yom Kippur. Now what's behind this? Says the Mishnah Berurah. The Svirale, the Amrim that say that you do make a bracha on Adlakas Neiros of Yom Kippur when it's not Shabbos, is the Gam Yom Kippurim. Av she'ein bo achilu ushtia. You see, there is a reason why you should think that you don't make a bracha on Adlakas Neiros of Yom Kippur. Because let's remember, one of the key reasons that you have Neiros Shabbos is for Oineg and Simcha, so that you should have light by the Suda, and that you should have ribuy of Neiros. You should have the covet of a lot of Neiros. But on Yom Kippur, there's no Suda. So there is a thought process that since there's no Suda on Yom Kippur, there's no room for the Iker Takana of Neiros, and therefore you shouldn't say Asher Kiddishanu b'mitzvahs of Tzivanu lahadik ner shel Yom Kippur. But the ones who disagree, they hold Av she'ein b'achilu ushtia, even though it's true that there's no suda, so there's no achilu ushtia, ve'ein shaykh alav mitzvahs oineg, but afilu hachi shaykh by mishum shalom bayis. But you still have the other rationale for Neiros of Shabbos and Yom Tov and Yom Kippur, which is shalom bayis. You don't want people tripping around and stubbing their toes, and therefore it is appropriate to make a bracha on Neiros Shel Yom Kippur, even if it's not Shabbos. Okay, now we go to the Ramah. 4 lines down near the end of the line says the Ramah Hagah. And this is going to bring up another difference of opinion in Minhagim that we find nowadays. Hagah says the Ramah, Yesh mi sha'omer, there are those that say shemevarchin koydem hadlaka. When should you make the bracha? Well, let's think a minute. When else do we make a bracha on Hadlakas Neiros? Well, Chanukah, right? Asher Kiddishanu b'mitzvahs v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Chanukah. When do we make the bracha? We make the bracha before you light, right? You hold the shamash near the licht, you make the brachas, and only then do you light. And the truth is that follows the golden rule. The golden rule is that you make all brachas over la'asiyasan. You make all brachas on mitzvahs, all brachas on mitzvahs you make before you become the mitzvah. So on Chanukah, we make the bracha and then we light. So says the Ramah, Yesh mi sha'omer shemevarchin koydem hadlaka. There are those that say that you should make the bracha before you light. But says the Ramah, V'yesh mi sha'omer, but then there are those that say shemevarich achar ahadlacha, that you should make the bracha after you light. Why? We'll see in the Mishnah Berurah. But now you have a problem. According to the shita that you make the bracha after you light, how are you mekayim the inyan of over la'asiyasan? You're always supposed to make the bracha before. Says the Ramah, Ukidei sheyehei over la'asiyasai, in order to create at least a semblance of over la'asiyasai, says the Ramah, lo yehane mimena, the one who's lighting should not get hana from the Neiros ad la'akar bracha until after the bracha. So how do you do that, says the Ramah? Umesimin ayad lifnei aner. That's why they take their hands and either they block their eyes, they cover up their eyes, or they block the Neiros achar adlaka after they light. Umevarchen, then they make the bracha, v'achakach misalken ayad, and then they take away their hands, v'zem mikri over la'asiyah, that is now called over la'asiyasai, and he brings this down from the Maharei Vayel, and he says v'chein aminig, that's the minig. And that is the explanation, Rabbi Isai, for the hands and covering up the eyes. So what a woman does is, she lights the Neiros, covers up her eyes, so now she's not seeing the Neiros, makes the berachah lahadlik ner shel Shabbos, and then uncovers her eyes and is now nene from the licht. And that makes it over la'asiyasai. Okay, so again, we have these two shittas. We have the, in a way, simpler one to understand. You have a mitzvah of hadlakas Neiros Shabbos, make the bracha, and then light, like Neiros Shel Chanukah. Then we have this shita, which is no, light, cover up your eyes, make the bracha, then uncover your eyes, see the Neiros, and that creates over la'asiyasai. But why this difference? Why this shita that says don't make the bracha until after you light? Says the Mishnah Berurah, ois cotton chaf vav. There are those that say that you make the bracha kaidam adlaka, kishar kol mitzvahs, like all other mitzvahs, shema varkan alei and overlasi asan, where you always make a bracha before you mekayim the mitzvah. But then ois cotton chaf zayin, there's a shita that says achar hahadlaka, that you don't make the bracha until after you light. Why? Svir alei, because they hold the im tevarech, if she makes the bracha asher kedishanu b'mitzvaysav etzivanu lahadlik ner Shabbos heavy ki'ilu kibla l'Shabbos beferish, that may constitute a beferish, a clear Kabbalah Shabbos. Let's remember something that we learned earlier. We learned earlier in Siman Reish Samech Aleph Sif Dalid on Daf Lamed Dalid Amud Aleph. We said Achar Anias Baruch Hu. Once you answer Baruch Hu by Ma'ariv, that constitutes Kabbalah Shabbos. Over there, the Mishnah Berurah said that nowadays, he was talking from the Magen Avram. The Magen Avram said that nowadays that the minig became to say Mizmar Shir. No, I'm sorry. The Magen Avram said Va'ata Nagid Loimer Mizmar Shir. No, let's skip the Magen Avram. The Mishnah Berurah said B'Mekayim Seinu Haminig. Our regions, the minig is that when you say Mizmar Shir, you're Mekabel Shabbos. But then the Mishnah Berurah said nowadays when we'd say L'Chadoidi, when you say B'Yichala Shabbos Malkasa, that constitutes a Kabbalah Shabbos. The different rationales that we gave for these different points of Kabbalah Shabbos, one of them is that when you daven and you mention Shabbos, Mizmor Shir L'Yom Shabbos, the Ramah. Oh, that's what it was. I'm sorry. It was the Ramah. The Ramah, right? Well, no, it was the Mechaber himself. I'm sorry. The Mechaber himself, at the bottom line, Lamed Al and Amalf. Uladidan heavy Amiras Mizmor Shir L'Yom Shabbos, Kanias Baruch Uladidu. When you say Mizmor Shir L'Yom Shabbos, that constitutes Kabbalah Shabbos, said the Mechaber. And the Mishnah Berurah in Ois Cotton Lamed Aleph said, the Mistama Kevich Mazkir Shabbos, once you mention Shabbos, heavy Kabbalah. So when a woman goes to Tzid Licht and she makes a bracha, Lahadlik Ner Shabbos, that constitutes Kabbalah Shabbos, Beferish. Oh, so says the Mishnah Berurah now, going back to our Mishnah Berurah, Ois Cotton Chav Zayin, Svir Lei, these shittas that hold that the woman should not make the bracha until after she lights is because they hold dim tevarech, because once she makes the bracha ladik ner Shabbos, have a ki'ilu kibla l'Shabbos beferish. That would constitute a beferish Kabbalah Shabbos. V'shuv asur lahadlik. If she's Kabbalah Shabbos when she makes the bracha, she's no longer allowed to light, because to light would be to do meleches iser, so she won't be allowed to light. V'im kain. Now says the Mishnah Berurah. V'im kain. If we follow this logic, then let's apply this logic to Shabbos. We're saying the whole reason not to make the bracha until after you light is because once you make the bracha, you bekabel Shabbos, and now you can't light a candle anymore. But now let's apply this to Yom Tov. On Yom Tov, you're allowed to light a fire, right? Because lighting a fire is mutter l'tzarech nefesh, and mitoich, once it's mutter for tzarech oichel nefesh, it's mutter for any tzarech. Well, any. It's like 30,000 feet. But it's mutter to light a flame on Yom Tov if it's for a tzarech, right? So now, this is definitely a tzarech. Hadlokis Neiros Yom Tov is definitely a tzarech. So now on Yom Tov, why can't she make the bracha first? She'll make the bracha. So fine, she was Makabel Yom Tov. So what? She could still light. She's lighting a flame l'tzarech. So what's the problem? It's mutter. So says the Mishnah Berurah Im Kain, based on this logic, for why you should only make the bracha on Shabbos until after you light, on Yom Tov this logic wouldn't apply, so then then certainly on Yom Tov you should make the bracha first and then light. That way it's a true overlasi asan, and you don't have to come up with this chap of covering your eyes, and there's no downside. So what? So you want Makabel Yom Tov, so what? You can still light. However, the Magen Avram says no. The Magen Avram says loy plug. If that's the way we do it on Shabbos, that we first light and then make the bracha because of the problem of Kabbalah Shabbos, then that's the way we do it on Yom Tov also. Why? Probably because if we're going to start making a difference between Shabbos and Yom Tov, women might get confused, and then they might come on Shabbos to first make the bracha, be Makabel Shabbos, and then light, which would be a problem. But there are many that say that no, even though you have this Magen Avram that says that Shabbos and Yom Tov should be the same, you have many Achronim who say no, Shabbos, first you light, then you make the bracha, Yom Tov, first you make the bracha, and then you light. My wife, it happens to be, her minig that she learned from her mother and those before her, were to taka make a difference between Shabbos and Yom Tov. On Shabbos, of course, she lights and then makes the bracha. But on Yom Tov, she makes the bracha and then she lights. I've seen others who do it the other way. Rebbetzin Feinstein, Allah Shalom, my Rebbe, Reuben Feinstein, Zazain Gesund and Stark, his wife, the Rebbetzin Allah Shalom, she did it the other way. She did it the same way as Shabbos. She first lit and then she made the bracha. Where she was makabel that from, I'm not saying that was the Yeshiva Zatzal's minig. I don't know if that came from Rav Moshe or that came from the Rebbetzin Allah Shalom's family. This I don't know without asking. Okay? We're going to stop over here. Thank you so much for joining me for limud HaTorah. The schus of limud HaTorah should be megan against Klal Yisrael. The Rebbeinu Shalom should send Yeshuas, Refuas, Parnasa, and Shidduchim to all those in need. And we should be zoichet to see the Bias Goel Tzedek, B'meher v'yameinu, Amen. Be well.